And the most requested palette, which again, I was really stunned by this. Hi everyone, welcome back. Today I wanted to reveal the results of what I'm calling the palette project. A couple of weeks ago I posted my entire palette collection, my entire eyeshadow palette collection, which admittedly is rather large. And I asked you which ones you wanted to see a little bit more of, seek some more looks on, and so I tallied all of your replies from Instagram and Facebook and the YouTube page, and this is the list. Before I get started, I did want to say, a lot of you commented, well, I'd like to hear a little bit more about what you liked, what you didn't like, why you bought it, and I purposely didn't do that in that video because it was long enough as it is, or as it was, and I really wanted to just kind of put it out there and figuring I could reveal or share that with you a little bit more later on once we looked at them individually. So some of the other comments that I heard were that people wanted to get some inspiration for some new looks. They owned that particular palette and didn't really know what to do with it. So I hope as we get into this, I'll be able to live up to your expectations there. The other thing is I did go through the list and see which ones were still available for purchase. And I was surprised that I could find all of them available online. Maybe not at Sephora. Some of them were on eBay. Some of them were on Amazon. There was only one that was not or is not available anywhere. So the first one in the honorable mention category is this Tarte Coral Crush palette. It is a full face palette. I really have enjoyed this one. It's an awesome palette for traveling and definitely has more of a winter feel for me for as far as a travel palette goes. The next palette that was brought up is this Laura Mercier artist palette from 2012. And I think I may have mentioned I didn't pick up this year's edition of this palette because there was a ton of overlap, and I felt like as pretty as that one was, I didn't, when 3 or 4 of the shadows overlap, that was kind of a non-starter for me. But this is such a great palette. Her shadows are really lovely. And while this is no longer available, it is something, you know, if you're interested in doing the artist palette in the end of this year, you might want to know a little bit more about the quality of those shadows as well. Also in the honorable mention category was the Stila in the Light palette. I recently heard someone say that this was Stila's answer to the Naked palette. I'm not sure I agree with that, but I can see the similarities with this gunmetal bluish color and the dark black. This is a really nice neutral palette with this little addition, and this color here, Kitten, is I believe their #1 selling eyeshadow in that line, and you can see why that's just phenomenal. Next up is this little palette from NARS called And God Created the Woman. This is a funny little palette. I bought it because I really wanted to try the NARS eyeshadows, and when I first started using it, I didn't love it. And then as I used it a little bit more, I really fell in love with it. It makes one of the most beautiful smoky eyes I've ever worn. So I do love it for that. And it's such a nice, small, compact palette. doesn't take up a lot of room in your makeup bag. Next up in this category is the Dior Stylish Move palette. And this definitely has an amethyst undertone. I would even venture to say this could fit the bill for that Pantone Color of the Year Radiant Orchid look. I am wearing this today. And I had read somewhere that someone had said that this is a great formula for aging eyes. It's shimmery but not too shimmery, and it's very flattering to aging eyes, and that was one of the reasons why I wanted to try this palette. I don't know what to tell you about that. The formula is nice. It's not my favorite. I find the colors are a little sheer, and maybe it's just the color choice that I selected. I don't know. Then the last up in this category is a drugstore one that someone mentioned, which absolutely floored me. And it is the Maybelline Eye Studio in Sapphire Siren. And I bought this to experiment with a particular look in mind, and I have hardly worn it because it is mighty colorful. There's nothing wrong with the formulas. The formulas are awesome, but I decided that the look that I bought it for was really not just not for me. And so it is just kind of sitting in my collection. We'll see if we get to that. So that takes care of what I'm calling the honorable mention category. Then the next category had a few more votes. And the first one I'll show you is this Tarte wallet. It actually has a real name, called the Amazonian Escape Eye and Cheek Palette. It is still available. I was surprised because I've had this a while. But it is a really great, almost full face palette for traveling. And it's just a really, really pretty palette. And I love that you have two choices for cheeks. And this one here has a little bit of shimmer in it. So that makes it equally a little bit more exciting. I'm so glad that some of the more recent Tarte products are a little more streamlined, because Amazonian Escape, and this is quite a hefty, heavy, bulky palette. So whoever's doing their packaging now, I think is on a better path. So the other palette that was named a couple times was the Lorac Pro palette. I know you all have seen this tons and tons, but I think a lot of people own this palette and are looking for inspiration here. So that'll definitely be one that I get to, because there are so many choices here. And for my matte ladies, I'll certainly try and include some all matte looks for you. And then we have the Bare Minerals Ready eyeshadow in the Power Neutrals. Get the brush out. I really bought this. I wanted to try this formula so very much. This really came so highly recommended, and I really haven't used it that much. To be very honest, I haven't used it very much. But the colors are really stunning. So shame on me for not using it a little bit more. So I'm excited to try that. There are more mattes in this palette than in some of the other palettes I own. So that'll be fun. Okay, I'm into what I'm calling like the first runner-up category. These had more votes, but they weren't in the top two. And one of the ones that was mentioned quite frequently was this gorgeous palette from Kat Von D. This is the Spellbinding eyeshadow palette that has 24 shades, lots of color. I have done a number of looks with this palette, but I can certainly do more colorful looks with this palette, so I will most definitely include this, especially after I saw that this was available. Where did I see this available? On Amazon. So if you've been looking for this, there were a few left on Amazon. Just saying. The Sonia Kashuk Jewel of an Eye palette, which has some really beautiful shades in there. I think when I look at this palette, I kind of feel like each row is its own look, if you will, kind of light to dark. What this is missing is a really great matte shade for under your brow. It just doesn't, it's a lot of one note in this palette. But the shades are really beautiful, and there are some really awesome looks that you can get with this. And it's a little bit more color if you like color. And it's super affordable. So next up is another Kat Von D palette, the Saint palette, which is neutrals. She really has, whoever's doing her shadow formula is really doing a great job. They're super pigmented, super soft, really gorgeous, and this is a great neutral palette. So one of the next ones that was mentioned was not really a surprise to me, and it's the Too Faced Chocolate Bar palette. Primarily, I think, because it's relatively new, and people are looking for new ideas on this. I recently did a look using this, so I will consider adding this into the rotation. Oh God, it smells so good. Yeah, yum. Okay, so I'm down to the top two, and this was a little bit of a surprise for me. Actually, I was surprised that the Naked 3 wasn't mentioned at all. I was surprised by that, but that's cool. That's part of the reason why I did this survey, was to see what you were most interested, not in what I was most interested in. So the first runner-up, and this was a total shocker, I almost didn't include it, was the NYX Bohemian Chic Nude Matte Collection. I got a lot of questions about this. I think because of what I said when I opened it, and I said, yeah, I've had this forever, I don't use it that much, I think the packaging is interesting. And people are like, interesting in a good way, interesting in a bad way. I think in a good way. I think that this little drawer that slides out is really cool, a cool idea. It's pretty small, and there are a ton of shades in here, and they're all matte. And while it looks like I haven't used it that much, this is probably where I go when I need a matte color to complement a palette that doesn't have one. You always go here because there's so many different shade choices for a highlight or a brow bone color, and the color payoff is spotty in this palette. I think, you know, sometimes some of them are really great. This top section has the best color payoff. When you get down here into this bottom section, I don't feel like these are as as strong, especially once you put them on the eye. They end up being a little sheer. And the blushes are nice. I like the blushes. I often wear both of them, you know, kind of together. There's a little bit lower here, there's a little bit higher. Mix them together, then get them a little more of a peachy pink color. So the blushes are nice as well here. And the most requested palette, which again, I was really stunned by this, was the Unzipped palette from Lorac. And I would never have thought this would have been the most requested palette out of that entire collection. So, I'm going to start with this palette since it is the most requested. I'm going to put this in my front and center on my vanity and use it the next week, 10 days, and pull together some of my favorite looks from this palette for you. Maybe even doing a little bit of get ready with me. I haven't really decided yet. It'll probably depend on each individual palette what I end up doing. So the palette project is starting, and we're starting with the Lorac Unzipped. So for all of you who weighed in and voted on which palettes you were most interested in seeing, thank you so much. I really appreciate your input. If you have any questions on any of the palettes that I showed you today, please leave them in the comments below, and I will include that when I do my follow-up video on that individual palette. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, I hope you do. And feel free to join me on the social media of your choice. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. I'd love to hear from you there. And I will see you in my next video. Take care. Bye-bye.